What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you tuning in. We're back with another edition of the Passion and Precision podcast. I mean, you already know myself, co host Jory as well. We bring you our take on a lot of the big stories around sports. And I feel like the segment that's kind of grown into its own little thing, final burn at the end. So make sure you stick around for that to see who makes our final burns for this week. I will say it's gonna be good. But before we even get into all that, Jory, how are you doing tonight?
I'm all right. It's been one of those weeks. I'm just excited to talk sports, kind of get
Yeah,
away from it all.
I mean, hey, that's what we do here. That's the whole purpose of this, to step outside of real life for a second and critique, analyze, all that good stuff. All stuff that kind of makes this fun for us.
Hmm.
Speaking of that, because normally we kind of open the show NBA or NFL, but we want to show some love for a league that is kind of doing it the right way, the WNBA. Their season ended a couple months ago, but due to like unrivaled and actual off-season activity, they're staying relevant. And that's what they need to do if they want to continue to grow as a league, especially going into next season with the new TV the new TV deal with the NBA. I think they were working on a new collective bargaining agreement. Like, a lot of things are
Hmm.
up for the WNBA right now. So I know that you wanted to kind of lead this one. We're going to kind of look at some of the big names that have moved to new places in the WNBA this offseason. And if you're paying attention to chat, if you're listening to chat, obviously, thanks for tuning in. And you can let us know what's been your probably biggest move of the WNBA offseason so far. But Jory, go ahead and take it away.
I will say, your Connecticut Sun has blown their roster up again.
Yes.
Absolutely blown it up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, sorry. Um, because they pretty much all of their starters are gone.
Yeah.
Dejanay Carrington is now a part of the Dallas Wings. Um, Alyssa Thomas, she's somewhere else. I forgot what she was. Hold on. She's a part of the Mercury.
Mm-hmm.
Brianna Jones is a part of the Dream.
Yep. And the fifth one, Bonner's a free agent.
Yeah. So I'm like, hmm, I guess they saw that that group wasn't working and
Yeah.
decided to just go ahead and blow it up and see what they can get.
Yeah. I mean, the GM is a former player for the Sun, so I guess she might have kind of the understanding of, and I feel like this is something that like you and I have gotten on NBA teams about. If you know it's not working, why continue
Mhm.
to parade
Yep.
around like you're being serious about contending? Like I said, I think for Morgan Tech, the GM in Connecticut, they looked at this group and said, kind of hit our ceiling. We're not going to be good
Yep.
enough to beat the Aces or the Liberty, but we're good enough to be that second tier underneath. So if we're going to win it all, why keep running the same group out there? As a Sun fan, like, I can't hate on them for doing something like that, but it's tough, especially the Carrington.
Mhm.
Alyssa Thomas, Bonner, I could see that. I thought Carrington was going to be part of the next group of Connecticut, but we'll see what they do with the draft picks and if they do anything else in free agency. But it's crazy enough, like, that wasn't even the only thing to go on in the WNBA. Connecticut is a big, I guess you could say, a big program in the WNBA, and they're
It's
making
a
news.
big WNBA brand.
Yeah, but some other players have moved as well.
Yep. Let's see. Kia Nurse signed a deal with the Sky for 1 year. That's a big loss for Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Sato Sabali got traded from the Wings to the Mercury. I don't think she wanted to be a part of Dallas anymore anyway, if you heard how she was speaking.
Mm-hmm.
She was about done with them. My biggest problem with the Wings is I'm like, you have so much talent. Why can't you run a complete, consistent set?
Yeah.
Um, of course, Kelsey Plum, Jewel Lloyd, 3-team trade. Jewel Lloyd is an ace, is a part of the aces. Kelsey Plum is now a spark. That's going to be different to look at.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you're looking at, because like you started with Connecticut completely tearing it down, Phoenix has just like retooled and remade their whole team. Like Tarazi,
Hmm.
I guess might retire, but who knows if the Mercury like make enough moves that she might be interested for another year. I don't know. I know somebody who you probably will talk about in a little bit, like Griner, gone. Like what
Hmm.
Sophie Cunningham, even though she's still kind of young, gone.
Gone.
So you're seeing teams making drastic moves to kind of change their positioning. Once again, I can't hate it. I can't hate on a team for making that decision when we see too many teams not do anything.
Hmm. Well, yeah, like I said, Brittany Griner signing a year with the Dream. The Dream are going to look interesting with Ryan Howard, Griner, and Brianna Jones.
Yeah,
They're
Brianna
going to
Jones
look
is a great
interesting.
pickup for them.
They're going to look interesting. Um, who else made some good moves? Dallas is trying to get picks. I know that. The
Yeah.
Storm, they spent all this time wasting Jewel Lloyd. And the
Mm-hmm.
1 year that they build a somewhat decent team around her, the next year she's gone. This
Yeah.
is what happens when you, yeah. Like there is a reason why Breonna Stewart asked out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Any more notable names? Not yet, but I'm pretty sure as closer we get to the draft,
Yep.
there's gonna be a few more pieces that can move.
Yeah. For sure. Like I said, this is them doing their off season correctly. With each one of these moves, it's like, oh yeah, we're getting a little closer to the WNBA getting started. Oh yeah, that player's moving there. Okay, now I'm kind of interested. Like I said, when you sprinkle in unrivaled and a lot of the WNBA players playing in that, it's working out really well for them.
Mm,
Now, obviously,
yep.
the play on the court once the season starts will obviously help that as well. But now maybe the season isn't just Ace's Liberty. Maybe you can throw
Hmm.
Mercury in there. Maybe I mean, depending on Kelsey Plum's impact on the Sparks, like maybe them. Like this is good for them. I'm definitely enjoying the movement. I like to start another league, but save that for later.
Yeah.
All right. So look, I will definitely be checking back in with the WNBA when they break some more news because, I think we can both agree there are more moves to be made out there. There's still some free agents. Like I said, Dewana Bonner is a free agent. Tina Charles, depending on if you think she's still a big name, but I mean she's still a name. I'm not going to discredit her or anything like that, but it's just like we'll see.
Her and Karasi need to go.
That's look. I feel like Tarazi's sitting there watching and like, oh, okay, so we're making that move, we're making this move, or look, maybe the Mercury do some deal with her, send her somewhere for some farewell to have one more shot at a title. I don't know. What if she goes back Connecticut? She did play there in college for fair. Like who knows? Who knows what happens there? I don't
She need to sit down.
know. Look, yeah, I will say. I guess for Dallas, I feel like Dallas is kind of running into the problem once again to switch sports. Atlanta, Trey Young, Charlotte, LaMelo, they have this one recognizable star, but success hasn't really come with that yet. So for them, they're constantly moving the deck chairs to try to figure out some formula that works. Because
Hmm.
you have a Gumbawale, like you know who she is, you know what she's going to give you. But you look at their seasons, like they're struggling to win games, and they got to figure out something to maximize the time they have with her. Once
Before
again,
she do a Lloyd and decide to dip.
yep. So once again, for them, I'm not going to hate you trying something. Okay, let's go. Let's go NBA because we did learn about the starters and the reserve and all that. I feel like everybody who's tuning in has seen that, heard, kind of broken down to death. Uh,
Hmm.
I mean, like, where do you stand on the, I guess, Trey Young, Mellow Ball snub conversation?
Hawks fans are just crying because they want something to be relevant for her. Trey Young is an all-star. That makes them relevant for a few minutes. Um, LaMelo Ball, I'd give him more of a case because he was the number one vote in the fan vote.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, the people wanted to see him. They should have they should have put mm, that should have weighed a little bit more considering the state of the All
Mm-hmm.
Star game right of the All Star weekend experience right now. I feel like Trey, but the thing is with LaMelo Ball, he's a volume shooter. He's gonna drop
Yeah,
40 points. He shoots a lot. And
that's
did the coaches and stuff like that want to deal with a volume shooter? Is a volume shooter All Star worthy? Really? There's a reason why Charlotte still has a losing record. Maybe if Charlotte was a little bit better,
mm-hmm.
I'd give him a nod. But he had more of a chance than Trey.
Right.
I
I can
get
agree with that. I feel like Lamelo's gripe is a little bigger than Trey. And I get Trey on some credit for,
improving.
yes, like he's upped his assist count, like the playmaking's there. I do want to see how they kind of survive the Jalen Johnson injury into the second half as he's out for the rest of the year. And Jalen Johnson was, definitely establishing himself as a good young player. So I do want to see kind of how they maneuver around that because right now they're 5 games under 500, but obviously that doesn't factor into the All Star break, All Star voting. But you did mention about Lamelo being number one amongst fans. Do you think the formula needs to be tweaked in terms of All Star voting? I guess how much weight you give to fans versus coaches versus whoever.
No, because fans already have 50% of the vote. But that 50% in this case was not weighted correctly.
Right. So
Like
just pulling up,
if
I was just saying, like, I'm pulling up the roster for you guys tuning in, or if you, I guess, watch it later on, or just listening. The rosters are up. Um, yeah, because I feel like the only other conversation a lot of people are having besides Trey and Lamelo is the Steph Curry aspect of it, where a lot of people are like, Steph Curry shouldn't be an All Star, and
he's
some are
gonna
like,
be in because
obviously,
of name.
right, and he's definitely earned that status.
But I feel like since I don't even, if we're talking about snubs, getting away from LaMelo and Trey, because those are the ones people are crying about.
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie has been quietly balling for the Mavericks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, he got snubbed.
Mm-hmm.
Sabonis got snubbed.
Mm-hmm.
I might give John Moran a slight nod towards
Okay.
being a snub, but I know he hit him in his health this year, but he's played pretty well. Um, People were crying about Tyrese Maxey. I'm like, look at where Philly is.
Well, I think the Maxi part is if we're gonna talk about Lamelo, they're not really playing all that well either. Maxi is the one bright spot in Philly this year.
Yep.
Like Embiid's been disappointment. Paul George has basically been a higher priced Tobias Harris.
Yep.
That's wild. Because Philly fans couldn't stand Tobias Harris. But now you've got the same version of him and paying more money.
I feel bad for the 76ers fans.
Well, yeah, they like Philly fans. They just want a winner. The Sixers, like they put a lot of time into the process and all this kind of stuff. And now it's like before the process even gets you anything, you might be starting a new process here
Hmm.
shortly. Yeah, interesting.
I was like, I, I, Philly, Tyrese Maxey probably was more of a snub to me, but
Hmm.
I understand why they put him in there because Philly's horrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Sabonis probably could have got in, but Norman Powell is probably going to replace AD if AD can't go because AD's injured.
Hmm. Why does it seem like Sabonis is always a snub?
No, yep.
I mean, yes, Sacramento was not the biggest market, but it's like the guy goes out there, he'll give you like a bunch of 2020 type games, 2015, and
Hmm.
it's like it goes unnoticed because, like I said, Sacramento not the biggest draw, but I don't know. He'll get his due at some point.
When certain people retire,
Fair point. Oh, you as a Laker fan, definitely have to ask this. AD, LeBron, did they get it right with LeBron being the starter, AD being
no,
a reserve? Okay.
no, absolutely not. But I knew Braun wasn't going to be no reserve.
Mm-hmm. You think if he was made a reserve, he would no show?
Probably.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that really. Okay, I did see like other podcasts talking about this since they are doing the draft and everything. Looking at this player pool, who do you think would be the last two waiting to be picked?
I'm doing all of that like I ain't got it right here.
Sorry.
Pool pick, period.
Yeah,
Like
who would be
pick
the
in
last two
general.
players waiting to be picked?
Tyler Hero
Okay.
and Harden.
And Harden?
Yep.
Okay. I kind of thought Siakam and Sengun, but I think that was before I really started thinking about the hero thing. No, I'll stick with that. I'll say Siakam and Sengun will be the last two. That'd be my
I think
guess. But I can
I
see
think
yours playing out. All right. Um, yeah. So looking at the All Stars, which we've done. So let me get that out of here. I think another kind of story that's come along with the All Stars, as Bella has made her appearance. What's going on, Bella? Caitlin Clark. Now Reggie Miller dropped this like last week, kind of slipped it in there during a game where he was like, I've been hearing that Steph and Sabrina are trying to recruit like Clay and Caitlin. to join them for like a 2v2 3-point contest, which everybody's like, okay, I would love to see it. Well, you can forget about it because Caitlin Clark has come out and said, not doing it. Uh, I think her reasoning was kind of like, if I'm going to do a 3-point contest, I'm going to do the WNBA one first because whatever. Do you think it was a missed opportunity for Caitlin Clark not joining in with Sabrina for this 3-point contest? Or are you okay with her not doing it if she does do the WNBA 3-point contest?
The latter.
Okay.
She better do the 3-point contest.
Look, she put it out there. So I'm assuming unless she's, I'm not going to even put that out there, but unless she's unable to, then that must be written in stone that she's going to be there for it. Which the amount of attention that's going to get, hey, once again,
I mean, I
WNBA,
get it.
a lot of things lining up for them.
I mean, I get it. Um, do it for the WNBA first, and then do the big integral whatever. I
Mm-hmm.
get it, but in this case, where you see where the direction is headed, I would have just went ahead and got it out
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean, I guess that the plan is still there because you figure Clay's going to do it. He wouldn't
there.
have a problem with it. I hope Sabrina can come with somebody else. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be somebody on Caitlin Clark's level, obviously with her popularity, but there's other sharpshooters in the WNBA that could very easily make it a good competition as a 2v2. So hopefully they can get somebody. I would like to see that.
I'm trying to think of some names off that. We can shoot a three.
Uh,
Jules good, Lloyd,
mm-hmm.
but she's a bucket period.
Yeah. Actually, that would be a good little search really quickly. Who were the highest 3-point shooters last year? Okay, 3-point percentage. I'm trying to see a big name. So Emily Engstler was the highest. I don't know if that's going to really draw anybody from the NBA crowd.
It's not.
Lexi Hull was second. Stephanie Dolson was third. Satu Sabali, who we just talked about, was
Hmm.
traded. She was fourth. Like, I'm trying to see the next big name. Kayla McBride was eighth. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, could you get Kelsey Plum? She shot what percent? Man, she shot 37% from three. That could work. We'll see what they come up with.
Yeah.
If they're gonna do something, it's gonna have to be announced kind of soon because All Star Game isn't too far away. But I think we can pivot off of the NBA now and get into the NFL, where I feel like we should start with. Let's start with Championship Sunday. We'll save the coaching stuff for the next part. We had Championship Sunday, obviously this past weekend. We had Eagles, Commanders on one side in the NFC, had the Bills and the Chiefs, AFC on the other side. Obviously, we know what the Super Bowl matchup's going to be. So for the Chiefs and the Eagles, we'll kind of save them for next week to talk about them.
Mhm.
Want to focus on the losers from this past Sunday, and let's start with the Commanders. I, I feel like it's going to be kind of hard to kind of downplay or downgrade their season, especially with how far they got, what the
Mhm.
future looks like, and them just beating expectations. So, looking at the Commanders, how would you kind of categorize their season this year, and what do you think about them going into next year? How optimistic should Commanders fans be?
That if they play their part right and treat the offseason right, they could be a playoff team again next year. They need to keep Frankie Louvu.
I I know a lot of people. Yeah, well, I know like Eagles fans or whatever
They hate
don't
him,
like
but
him. I can't look. I just love the way he plays. Like he goes all
you
out.
need a nutcase.
Yes, especially linebacker, middle of the field. Yeah, like it's okay for me. It's okay if your linebacker kind of toes the line a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, don't want him to turn into like Al Shair
Shire.
with a lot of the stuff he's done. But if he's the guy who every couple of weeks there's a big hit here or there, forcing a fumble, and then there's maybe a little bit of a late hit on somebody, fine, as long as he doesn't cross the line. But I think Lulu has definitely made himself a name with this season. Oh, what's going on, Anthony? Let's talk about how a coach became a running back coach and didn't know he was a running back coach in the past, or that's someone who just took a job to. We
He's
will
been a
address
running
that.
back coach in the past.
I mean, let's just say we will address that when we talk about the coaching carousel because yes, Jory and I definitely want to talk about good old Eric Bieniemy. Um, yeah, so the Commanders, you know, saying that there's a lot of optimism for them going forward. I mean, I don't know if you've like looked into their roster and everything like that. What would you say is the glaring need for them this offseason?
Offensive line,
Okay.
defense, secondary.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Uh,
Hmm.
let's
They
see how.
could use some younger pieces on that defensive line. Jonathan Allen is getting old,
Mm-hmm.
so they do need depth pieces. Yeah, they need to upgrade the line. Maybe invest into a good solid wide receiver. Another one. They have a tight end. They have Ertz who wants to return to the Commanders. I think Anthony, you know your cap space. I forgot you're a Commanders fan. Use that
Mm-hmm.
on the defense and the offensive line. Yep, I 100% agree.
Yeah. But I also think that's kind of where the Commanders are now. They've tasted success this season. Now it's not like, oh, we're scrambling to figure out who our quarterback is. You know who your quarterback is.
Yep.
You're not scrambling around to find your a coach. You got one. You got Dan Quinn. Great first season for him in Washington. You'd call it a bit of a redemption season for him with the way his tenure ended with the Falcons and everything like that. Great to see what he's doing there. Look, Cliff Kingsbury, that guy has put his name back out there, and do not be surprised if next season he's getting legit interviews for head coaching jobs because of the progression that we seem to think, Jane Daniels will take next year. So
Hmm.
all that you give him credit for. You had Terry McLaurin, who's I love Terry McLaurin, kind of an underrated wide receiver. I agree with you. Get another one to go pair with him. I think you're good there. But it's like they now know where their core of their team is. Now it's filling everything outside of it. Like you said, you want to do upgrade some spots in the O line, do it. You want to upgrade the D line or get younger guys to fill in as Allen gets older, do it. You want to upgrade that
Yep.
secondary,
Do
do it.
it.
Because now you have a window where you can think about winning the NFC East here in the next couple of years. Or even if you don't, you should now approach this as we are a playoff team. We are an organization that expects the playoffs now. How do we make it happen? No more like with Dan Snyder, where you're like, oh, our owner's kind of sabotaging us. We can't get any talent here. It's like, no, all that's done with. Take advantage of this, especially with James Daniels on his rookie contract. Like,
Exactly.
spend what you have to right now to keep this success going.
That's the thing. They got it on a great timeline.
Yes. Right. To have it happen in his first year is definitely a great win for Washington. Anthony says, let me get off the Lattimore bandwagon. Dude, suck. He had a rough. Yeah.
Yeah, he
I
had a
liked
rough
that
year.
move when they got him, but he got burnt uh, all over the field in that championship game.
That's what happens when corners get old.
Mm-hmm.
Why do
Yeah,
you think Jalen Ramsey isn't in the Pro Bowl?
it's a good point. Good point.
Because
Anthony
they,
says need to go after a number two. Yes, I think we both would
yeah.
agree with that.
Mm, I think they had a good season. They had a really good season. They had a great season, actually.
Mm-hmm.
They exceeded expectations, and then all out how it ended, they flat out got beat by another team,
Mm-hmm.
by the better team.
Yeah.
Granted, I get it; it was embarrassing,
Mm-hmm.
but Commanders fans have nothing to hang their hat on this season. First full season without Dan Snyder, and look at where you're at.
Yeah.
Look at what happens when you take out the trash.
Yeah. Oh, did you see the Dan Snyder like throwing shade at
Oh,
the
that he
Commanders?
freaking hated.
Like,
I
bro,
said, oh,
like get
I
over
bet
yourself.
you do. I bet you're like, why couldn't they do this when I was in charge?
Right.
Because you were in charge.
Exactly. Like he was the toxic one. Like they gotten all that toxicity out of there. What's going on, Damien? Cowboys and Browns should learn from Washington.
They're not.
Yeah, we already know Cowboys issues are sitting there at the top. That's not going to change anytime soon. Browns, hmm,
And it's not going to change because Jimmy Haslam is a horrible owner.
yes, yeah. So obviously, give the Commanders high marks for this season, and I hope they do continue it next year. Now let's go to the other side. Buffalo coming off of the win over the Ravens, go up against the Chiefs, have a chance to continue their season, but they lose in the way that they did. And, obviously, all the conversation coming out of it surrounding Josh Allen, because Josh Allen in the MVP race, which we'll learn was the NFL honors like next Saturday, I believe.
I think so.
We'll find out whether he's the MVP or not. But I think for Bills talk, first off, their window closed, closing, or open.
I think it's open. They
Okay.
need to, they clearly need to, well, it's half open. They clearly need to retool. But of course, when you
Yes.
lose what they lost in the wide receiver room last year, it's going to take a year or two for that receiver room this year to really get it going. Keon Coleman missed a month.
Hmm.
So I think they have very good. Well, and looking at their division, you got two rebuilding teams and one team that's one concussion away from rebuilding.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah,
Damien, we're going to touch on that here in a little bit.
in just a second.
Um, Anthony, all I'll say is just hold on.
Just hold off.
His name will come up later in the show for sure.
I don't want to hear about Lamar and getting MV3, three MVPs and three playoff wins. Okay,
Yeah.
Win a Super Bowl.
Hmm.
At least get to the Super Bowl. You can't even get there.
Hmm. I look.
And
It,
for
I feel like look the Lamar conversation would probably be the second part, but not really directly relating to Lamar. Second part would be because I do agree with you. I don't think that their window is closed or anything. Because like you said, the Jets are a mess right now. Although Aaron Glenn loved his press conference, hope he gets his shot there to fix it. Fine, but the questions at quarterback,
hmm
questions about I think the O line. I feel like the O line they kind of brought in older guys to patchwork it. So
they
can
did.
Aaron Glenn get a staff together that's going to fix the O line? The defense took steps back last year as they were constantly changing from Robert Sala to whoever, with Olbrich, and then yeah. So can Aaron Glenn, a defensive guy, get that defense playing better again? It's a lot of questions. Miami, like you said, we saw this year. If two is not under center, Mike McDaniel doesn't know how to coach apparently at all.
Yep.
So for him to kind of base his ability on a guy who's been in and out of the lineup, hard to predict how good they'll be next year. And then my Patriots, of course, rebuilding, although it seems like Vrabel is going to have them off to a good start next year. But I can't sit here and be like, oh, they're going to win 10, 11 games next year. No, I'm not crazy like that. But Vrabel will make them better next year. So if you look at that, Buffalo should win the division again. And if you're Buffalo, you get into the playoffs. You've proven that you can hang with Kansas City. You've proven you can beat Buffalo. I mean, beat
Baltimore.
Baltimore. And then looking at the rest of the AFC, it's like, Chargers are coming along, but we don't know what kind of leap they make. So, yeah, I think Buffalo has a window here. Would like to see them probably maybe wide receiver and, yeah, some pieces around the edges. I think Buffalo's fine.
hmm
But the second part is because a lot of people talking about Josh Allen's narrative of not being able to beat Patrick Mahomes. I think kind of trying to put him in that category of is he good enough to win a Super Bowl as your starting quarterback? So, do you think Josh Allen is a Super Bowl winning capable quarterback? And we're just making too much of kind of the run that Kansas City's on right now.
Ooh, because I want to say yes, but also want to say no until he do it.
And that's fair.
Because I
Because
know he can do it, but he hasn't done it yet.
yeah.
Just like with Lamar. I can't sit here and say Lamar hasn't done this yet and cannot have the same energy for Josh Allen. You hear that, purple feather brains? You hear that.
Right.
They were the main ones over here talking about keep that same energy. Well, that's the same energy right there. Y'all need to
Mm-hmm.
keep that same energy. I
Yeah.
can't sit here. The difference between Josh Allen and Lamar is one of us has almost three MVPs and the other one doesn't have one. Three MVPs and three playoff wins.
Mm-hmm.
Let him win that MVP next week.
I, I still have a feeling that people think like he's the favorite to win it. And look, it's not to say like Lamar hasn't had an MVP level type of season. We're not saying that. Neither of us have ever said that. We have just taken the stance. When you look at that V for valuable, Josh Allen, and I've thrown out other names, but I mean, I don't want to necessarily send Raiders fans like crazy with some of the names, but it's just like you want to look at value. There are names that are above Lamar this season. Once again, is Lamar valuable to Baltimore? Yes. Is he the most valuable in the NFL? No, not
No,
this season.
and considering how they lost that game, which is when they really stopped deciding to run the ball with their running back, isn't that a pattern in playoff games that the Ravens do? Stop running the ball with an actual running back. Ain't that some stupid stuff? backwards. Why do you have a running back for? You're just gonna stop giving it to him after he marches you down the field. What
Hmm.
kind of sense does that make? Huh? Um,
I,
but
if you're a Ravens fan, if your team were the Eagles, we would probably be still talking about you playing. Like the Eagles,
exactly.
they don't run away from Saquon Barkley. They feed him. For some reason, Baltimore hates doing that with Derrick Henry.
Also, Jalen Hurts has taken care of the ball a lot better.
True.
And I don't know what it is about Lamar and playoffs and turnovers. It's like synonymous. They belong next to each other in the dictionary.
Hmm. And Anthony, we
Yeah,
both agree with that. Derrick Henry was
Derrick
a
Henry was the
huge part.
he was most of that.
Yes.
Because in the games that they stopped running the ball with him, they lost.
Hmm.
Explain how they lose to the Raiders. Explain how you almost let Dallas come back. You stopped running the ball.
Yep.
Like, mm-hmm.
What's going on, Sleepy Mocha? Chiming in with all you can eat buffet with Saquon. Yeah.
Yeah, and if the Ravens hadn't approached their season with that type of mentality, like what the Eagles are doing, you might have a bird. You might have a bird bowl.
Hmm.
Then yeah, turnovers. And let's get this back to Josh Allen. In that game, who turned the ball over and who did not? And that's the one thing with Josh Allen that we've been getting ragging on him for years. Turnovers.
Hmm.
But then
Yeah.
if he didn't even play that great. Well, he didn't turn the ball over. He didn't need to play that great. Clearly, if the
Hmm.
Ravens were just gonna cough it up and drop stuff and get all and let their hands get all uptight and sweaty, he
Yeah.
didn't need to play necessarily great if the defense wasn't gonna stop James Cook in the first half.
Hmm. And I
Like
could probably
he played
argue for
well enough to win
Buffalo.
that game.
Yeah, but I mean, could also argue for Buffalo. They probably should have ran James Cook a little more. But
They should have.
yeah, yeah. But that's the thing.
It was a couple of
Kansas
drives
City.
that
Yeah. No, go ahead. 'Cause I was going to say like Kansas City is now not now, but it's like past couple of years they have done what I used to see teams do against the Patriots when they were going through their run. Certain teams would always feel like, oh, we need to do something different to try to trick them. No, if you have something that's working, continue doing it. Kansas City all year would give teams like one or two opportunities to steal games from them. Too many teams would never take that opportunity. And if you're Buffalo, I think you got to kind of look at this game the same way. I know everybody's looking at that fourth and short, analyzing the video showing he got the first down. Sure. But you can look at the heave at the end from Josh Allen, Kincaid. That's
dropped
a
it.
championship level type of catch. Like you would expect Kelsey to make that catch, a Goddard to make that catch, guys who have been part of winning teams. And Kincaid's still young, like he'll be better. You could look at the possession when they had Kansas City. I think it was like 2 minutes, like a minute 45 left. It was like a 3rd and 6. Mahomes dumps a pass off over the middle, short drag route. Bills player, I can't remember who it was. It might have been like Benford or somebody. He makes that tackle there. 4th down, maybe you get the ball one more time to try to tie it or win it late. But the defender kind of got flat footed and kind of lost the pursuit angle, and they got their first down. That's how they killed the game. So, yes, the 4th and whatever is what everybody's talking about, but there were still other opportunities for Buffalo to
To
try
win
to,
that game.
yeah. So, I think if you're Buffalo, it's going to sting, but you have to know you can hang with Kansas City. You just have to be
You gotta
more,
capitalize on the
you got to be more
opportunity.
aware of the little details.
Yeah. And that's something that Andy Reid says, especially in his speeches. Detail.
Hmm.
So when you're playing Kansas City, you have to pay attention to details and you can't really be off.
Yeah.
And they're not gonna let you be dirty.
Hmm. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And also, I think if you're
And the
Buffalo,
same principle,
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, you can go ahead.
No, I was just gonna add like Buffalo. Looking back, the times that they allowed Mahomes to scramble and get big first downs or a touchdown, I think that's where they'll be kicking themselves defensively. Because bad enough if Mahomes beat you with his arm, that game he beat them with his legs too. You
Hmm.
can't allow him to beat you both ways. And Mahomes isn't the quickest guy, but he's a smart runner. He'll take off when he knows defenders may have their back to him. He knows he can get that first down. This one, we saw him scramble for a touchdown, which is, So I think that's where Buffalo's going to look back as well and say, if we had just paid attention to him on scrambles, maybe we win the game too. So,
Same principle for that purple bird team. Same principle.
yes. Yeah.
They don't. They act like that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
said when you get in these
Uh,
positions, you cannot have these type of blunders.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Because until Kansas City kind of loses one of these big games, you kind of have to assume that you can't leave it to chance or leave it to call here or there. Like you have to, when you get a lead on them, like you
You
have
have
to
to jump
keep
on it.
bearing. Yeah, Anthony, I'd be smart too if I'm running then sliding then looking at the ref. I mean, yes, like
They
that's
got to
a
get on
thing.
Mahomes about that.
Yeah,
They got to.
I think the league's already said the sliding thing is probably going to be part of the replay judges stuff. The guy who sits upstairs and buzzes down and goes like, "Oh, that wasn't whatever." Like they're going to add that to that replay judge. I agree. Like Bill Belichick said, like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, he's like, we have the technology, we have guys. Why don't we just replay everything? And obviously not like the whole throw the flag, stopping the game and all that kind of stuff. He's like, you have a guy up there who just watches the replay of stuff. If he sees something that's missed, let him buzz down, correct it really quickly on the field, and just keep it moving. I feel like we're gonna get to
Yep.
that point, and I don't care. Like college football is basically like that. Just get the
Hmm.
call right. That's all NFL fans want. So we'll see why we keep changing rules after a Chiefs win. Well, the ruling was because the Mahomes fake slide stuff, the Trevor Lawrence hit where people say he slid late. These defenders, you can't have them second guessing whether or not a guy's going to slide or not. Because look, there's going to be a game where a linebacker's barreling down on a quarterback, pulls up because he assumes the slide's coming, and that quarterback's going to take it off for some long touchdown run. And
Hmm.
everyone's going to be looking at the linebacker like, what were you doing? Like, that should not be part of your defensive preparation. If
Right.
quarterbacks want to slide late and they get laid out, the responsibility should be on the quarterback for getting down earlier, not the defender for laying him out. And I think that's where the NFL is trying to, well, hopefully, trying to get to. So, I guess one final follow up before we go to the coaching carousel. Looking at Buffalo, looking at Washington, who would you say you have more faith in returning to this point next season? I mean, you could say neither if you think.
I'm gonna let you go on that. Give me a minute.
Okay.
So I can get
Um,
my reasoning together.
I mean, I know I asked the question, but it is kind of tough to think about conference wise. I feel like the NFC North does make it kind of challenging to think Washington could be back. I do think for Buffalo, I could see a path back there that's a little easier than Washington. So I'd probably say Buffalo. Yes. Look, Anthony's a Commanders fan. He said
Yeah,
Bills. I respect that, Anthony. But I would say don't sleep on the
yeah,
Commanders.
because the Bills are missing. The Commanders, that offensive line, I don't like it. I think it's going to take a season or two to really retool it the way they want
Hmm.
to. So yeah, I give it the Bills.
Yeah, like obviously it's gonna be tough either way, but yeah, I'd go Bills. Okay, so now coaching carousel, because it's been mentioned a couple of times. For those of you who may not have seen the news, Bieniemy is back in the NFL. He's the running backs coach for the Chicago Bears, which I think is a good hire for Ben Johnson. If you're a young head coach, first time,
Hmm.
get some guys who've been around the block to kind of help you out with game day prep and kind of take stuff off your plate. So I think it's a great move
Right.
for Ben Johnson. I think for Bieniemy, getting back into the NFL, great move by him. He was at UCLA last year. I feel like a lot of people probably weren't paying attention to UCLA football, so they didn't even know he was there. But at least now, with Ben Johnson, with the Bears, he's going to be there front and center. And who knows, this probably leads to him maybe being an OC in Chicago. Yeah, I don't know, in the next couple of years. And then maybe his name gets brought back up in head coaching circles. Whether or not he actually gets a job, I don't know. But at least now he's kind of back where he probably needs to be if he really wants to be a head coach back in the NFL. So I guess grade the hire by
Yep.
Ben
And he
Johnson.
was A
Okay.
because he was a running backs coach in his past.
And he's a former running back, so he knows all about that position.
Yeah. Get back to your roots. Sometimes you got to get back to your roots to
Yeah.
rebuild. And ain't no problem with that. And the one thing about UCLA, that whole situation was a mess because he got scapegoated. I'm like, he was there to assist.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all firing him when he was only there for one season to begin with was absolutely BS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes, UCLA football is not great right now.
It never has been.
I mean, no, they had a little run. I mean, I couldn't.
I'm an Alabama fan, so I can sit here and say a whole bunch of teams ain't never been great.
Right, right. I mean, UCLA's always kind of had the backseat to USC. Like that's, I can sit here and safely say that. But yeah. So shout out to Bieniemy back in the NFL. I guess we got to talk about the Saints here because, I like who wants the job? It looks like Kellen Moore is who the Saints are hitching their wagon to. But if Kellen Moore were to say no, the scramble might be legendary for them to try to figure out who to target next.
Who their head
Yeah.
coach is. And if I was Kellen Moore, I'm telling him no.
Okay.
I'm like, your cap situation
Mm-hmm.
is terrible. You don't have a quarterback. You don't have money to sign your draft class. You have to sit here and keep extending players that I may or may not want
Mm-hmm.
to lower their cap cap hit. I don't want that. I'm not touching that with a 2 foot pole. Absolutely not.
Yeah. But I guess if you're going to put yourself in Kellen Moore's shoes, it's I'm an OC. At least one place wants me to be a head coach. Do I take that position? Like, is that the best position I can get right now? Or if I stayed with Philly, had another successful season, could I get a job that's better than the Saints?
I would stay in Philly, repeat what they do this year, next year, or
Mm-hmm.
try to look good doing it, and he'll have another job. He'll have another good, better situation lined
Mm-hmm.
up.
Well, yes, but I guess once again, if you're Kellen Moore, if you hold out for the mythical dream job, who's to say that team views you the same way the Saints do? And obviously, the Saints didn't view him that highly because he's like, I don't know, fourth, fifth, sixth guy they've kind of tried to attach to the job. But would Kellen Moore regret passing up this opportunity that's in front of him now for the hope of one next season? Where look, if next season a higher profile job comes out there, Mike McCarthy, Robert Saleh, Bill Belichick. We know that name's not going to go away
Mhm.
anytime soon. That's three guys right there who have had head coaching experience who could be in front of you for that bigger job. So you take the opportunity that's there now, or do you wait? I feel like that's probably where his
Or
biggest
if I take
that's probably his biggest like struggle with this right now.
and if you take the opportunity with a trash team that ain't got a whole lot to really work with, and they still stink, and he can get one and done, he's still looking for a job next year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, I'd stay in Philly
Anthony said Cowboys should have signed
because
Illinois.
you know somebody's gonna.
He knows their system better. Well, they got Brian Schottenheimer.
They got
They
Brian
seem happy.
Schottenheimer. The Cowboys get what they deserve.
I think it's fascinating, and like the Saints job does have some perks to it. Like Saints fan base, pretty good. This,
No, they're not. They're horrible.
well, I mean, in this, I guess in the stratosphere of being fan base in the NFL, like a lot of fan bases aren't that great in terms of how they treat people.
You live here. You know Saints fans are annoying.
Yes, yeah, I absolutely do. But it's like, I mean, every area has that. Like if you're in the Northeast, if you didn't live in New England, Patriots fans are the annoying one. If you live in New England, the Jets fans are the annoying one. Like if you're out west, I don't know, are the Niners fans the most annoying? I don't even know.
It's a little different here because you got so many Falcons fans and Saints fans that just regularly commingle
Mm-hmm.
and fight.
Yeah, that's true. There's also a lot of Steelers fans here. I've noticed that.
Oh yeah, I know a lot of Steelers fans here.
Yeah. Damien asks, "What are the chances that Micah Parsons leaves Dallas?"
If Jerry ain't trying to open up his pocketbook,
Yeah, yeah. I don't think Jerry wants that backlash if Micah left. It
I
might
mean,
make
I
his
bet
radio
some of his
show.
teammates want him to go, but
Yeah,
I bet some Dallas fans want him to go.
I mean, seeing the state of the team, like, I,
He don't make it no better.
oh, there you go. Sleepy Mocha is a Steelers fan. Hey, we welcome you in. I'm one of the many. No, definitely there are a lot of Steelers fans, but we're just saying that because we're both Atlanta area, especially me being from Boston and moving to the Atlanta area, I noticed that there are a lot of more Steelers fans than I would have thought. Even though I know a lot of people migrate from the north to the south, I get that, but it surprised me somehow. Like Cowboys fans, you understand because there's Cowboys fans all over because you know when they were
They
America's
fell
team,
victim to the grifter.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, Sleep Mocha, we have no problem with you as a Steelers fan. You're not on our list of fan bases that get on our nerves. Um, okay, Anthony trying to break some news here. Pittsburgh said Justin Fields is the starter next year. That
Where?
I have just zero problem with that.
Where did they say that at? Now?
I'm looking that up, but I do know that I think Rooney said something like he would love to see Fields or Wilson as a starter, then draft a quarterback. Like if it comes down to that, I think Fields would probably be the answer. Russ, as much as I want to root for Russ, that
I think
playoff
he's
game was
cooked.
not good for him. But yeah, let me
Our
see.
third host decided to join us again
I mean, Bella's always welcome.
from her nap.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm seeing like there's reports that Justin Fields has serious believers within the organization. Steelers insiders are comfortable with Justin Fields as QB1 next year. So it does seem like that's kind of where they are right now, where they're leaning. Which, like I said,
Rest to
I
the
have
Raiders.
I, that rumor is going to have to be out there because of the Pete Carroll connection. But I guess the problem would be, does Pete Carroll want a
And he
second
get
help?
to stick it to Sean Payton twice a year.
I mean, I'm always down for a little sports petty, so I wouldn't hate that. I mean, if you're Pete Carroll, a veteran guy who knows your system, not a terrible way to start. Okay, hey, we'll see if it happens because Russ obviously, if this is how Pittsburgh's leaning and Russ is a free agent, I don't have any inclination that Russ wants to retire or anything. Maybe he gives it one last shot with Pete in Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any other coaching news except for I did see uh, our buddy Liam Cohen do the Duval thing again. The second one was much better than the first. Unfortunately, he can't live the first one down. So
He looked like a cartoon character.
he
I
looked
don't
like
get
a Disney. His face looked straight Disney villain when he just like
yes.
did this like weird little like snake kind of thing. It was just like, okay, buddy, I get it. You tried a little too hard. You came on too strong in your opening press conference, but yeah, I guess at least he seems happy with the job because we also thought that was a job that was going to go a while without finding somebody.
And then he tried to take two people from Tampa Bay with him, and Tampa was like, absolutely not.
You can't follow for trying.
I don't fault Tampa for saying no.
Yeah, absolutely not. Steelers decided to
'Cause-
keep Russ. They're more dumber than the Cowboys. Oh, there you go. Is Max Crosby leaving the Raiders? He didn't look too enthusiastic about Pete Carroll being there, with him standing in the back, just kind of stretching out his neck and all kind of stuff. But I don't know. We'll see.
yes, he's on his way out. Will
I
it
feel
happen this season or next season?
like, mm-hmm.
Will it happen this season or will it happen next season? That's the question.
Yeah. I feel like Pete is probably a good guy to play for.
Max
I
is
mean,
just being Max.
yeah,
And you never know with him.
yeah. I still think about that video of like Pete Carroll doing quarterback drills and like running a rollout and throwing passes and stuff. I'm just like, this
Or
dude's like
Pete Carroll
78
coming
years
down the
old, still doing
circle and riding around on scooters.
it. Yeah. So I guess we'll maybe look. Maybe Crosby was upset with the direction, but I feel like if he gives the Pete Carroll hiring a chance, who knows? Joshua Johnson, what's going on? Keep up the good work. Hey, Joshua, I'm calling you Josh like I know you. Joshua, appreciate that. We definitely do try. So we definitely love that comment from you. Um, so yeah, we've done the coaching carousel. I feel like now we kind of just have to get into final burn. So those of you who are new to the show, this is how we end our episodes. Final burn, where we each get our opportunity to kind of go off on somebody or some people who kind of got under our skin a little bit this week. So we always start with Jory. Not going to change that. Jory, the floor is yours.
Y'all gonna have to give me a minute, and I am gonna talk about some difficult subjects.
Mm-hmm.
This is the warning. Because let's talk about Mr. Justice Huff in that situation. So now we're up to 9 allegations. We're up to 9 allegations. All of them are eerily similar, which shows a pattern of behavior, predatory behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And happened. I know it happened a long time ago, but a lot of people don't understand that the way this society is set up for women, they're not going to want to come out immediately. Some people have to take time to heal. Some people just don't want to relive their trauma. And the way some people like to react and be dismissive and whatnot, I wouldn't want to come out either. Like, and the whole, I had a conversation with somebody earlier this week, and it kind of made me realize that I was talking to a complete clueless idiot. I'm like, some people are willing to believe when it comes to people that they don't know, but if it's somebody that they have any attachment to, it's, oh, how do we know exactly, Anthony? Damn, exactly. And rumors, you can find a tweet talking about rumors about him being banned and treating people badly like that from 2021. You can find it.
Hmm.
And then the statement that he did afterwards was just chat GPT generated, and it really didn't address much of anything other than he's trying to protect his character. You lied when you said you weren't banned from places, and even though the report said they spoke to lawyers for one of the establishments and they confirmed that they had banned you. Why do you sit here? Why do people lie? Like now you have some of his homeristic idiot fans that over here trying to question why they take so long to speak up. Multiple reasons. There's two sides to every story, and that's it. That right there pissed me off. If somebody's sitting here saying that they were attacked or somebody did something to them, if you have to sit here in audacity and sit here and tell them to their face or under a post, there's two sides to every story. You deserve to go to hell. I'm not kidding because it's like if I'm telling my story, I'm telling my story, and I know I'm telling the truth. You sitting over here saying there's two sides to every story, like you're insinuating that I did something to deserve it or that I provoked it. I think the whole discourse is ridiculous. Stop, like we need, and I want ESPN on Monday and through Friday to give Justin Tucker the same treatment that they gave Watson. It's only right because what we're dealing with is somebody who has predatory behaviors. And what is it with the whole AFC North and housing weirdos? What is with that?
Hmm.
The discourse just made me mad. I feel like once the league does due diligence, if the Ravens don't do something about it because it happened on their watch as well, he's been a Raven for his entire career. The dates on this, he was a part of the team doing this. He should be cooked.
Yeah. I mean, when the Ray
He
Rice thing
should
stuff
be.
happened, because Ray Rice was kind of slowing down as a running back, it seemed like Baltimore was quick to move on from him. And obviously, I'm not comparing the two because Ray Rice had the video and all that kind of stuff, which obviously made it look a lot worse. It probably put even more pressure on Baltimore, and we'll have to see if this Tucker grows to that level. But I think a lot of people are kind of waiting around to see what does Baltimore do with him.
Especially because John Harbaugh decided to open his mouth and said that they were zero tolerance
So
when it's speaking on Deshaun Watson stuff.
this will test them.
No, Anthony, it's not a race card. I just want to see the same energy be displayed. What is with folks in the race car? What in what part of what I was saying insinuated that I was trying to play a race car? That's the shit right there that pisses me off. That pisses me off. I made a statement. I was not insinuating black versus white or anything. Quit doing that shit. That's annoying. It's a statement. No insinuation. They need to put the same energy that they did into that they did to him, because it's equally as nasty. It's pretty much the same stuff over and over again. It's pretty much the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. So why wouldn't I expect them to keep the same energy? It has nothing to do with black or white. Shut that shit up. That's annoying. Like, look. And then you get Zion opening his fat ass mouth. It was a stupid ass question. And it was an insinuation. It wasn't just a regular question. Next, back to Zion. Over here talking about, oh, the Pelicans. I could play back to backs. The Pelicans won't let me play back to backs. How unprofessional. How unprofessional. The Pelicans aren't at fault for this. You have barely been available for 50 games consistently. When you do that, maybe people will trust you to play a back to back. Figure out what you want to do with your life. Because he's trying to force himself out of New Orleans, and New Orleans has given him chance after chance to get right.
Mm-hmm.
And he still can't do it. Now he wants to throw shots. Grow up. You're
Nope.
he's 23, 24. It's time for him to be grown
Mm-hmm.
and be a professional. Take it serious. I'm done.
I mean, look, the the Tucker one, I obviously agree. Like, I'm expecting, especially when you look at like First Take, Stephen A. Shannon to talk about it as much, like you said, uh, treat the same way Watson. I agree. Zion, I just don't know with him most of the time when he's talking, because one, why are you telling the media that? Like, you just, like you said, are you just trying to pin it as a you versus the organization, hoping the organization gets so mad at you that the organization goes, we can't stick with this guy? Like, I don't know. Uh, uh, Anthony said, thought it was the owner that says now business idea to play Zion back to back, which is what Zion's saying is like he's an employee of the Pelicans, so he
It
whatever.
doesn't
But
matter. They have valid reason to sit here and say,
right,
no, Zion said that. They have valid reason for him not to play back to backs. He can't. He can barely play. Period.
yeah,
He might play a back or two and then be out for a month.
right. It was just like Zion took this stance like my body can do it. They just won't let me. It's like no.
And it can't do
Every
it.
year, every year it's a lower body injury. You are a bigger guy. They have to do it to protect themselves and probably to protect you. So if Zion wants to change that narrative, he'd probably have to change his body. So far, he hasn't shown that he's willing to do that. So New Orleans being smart has to hold it. It's the same thing like Embiid. Like if Embiid came out and was like, well, I could play back to back, so the Sixers won't let me. Who's going to take that seriously? With the amount of injuries he's had.
He's the last person that need to say anything like that.
I would hope he wouldn't, but you never know. So yeah, so if the owner did imply that, Zion's not in a place where he could say, I don't agree with that. I think we should do it this way. Until you show them that you can play 65, 70 games back to back seasons or something like that, they're going to operate this way. And even if they moved you, your new team's going to operate like this with you.
Yep.
So, yeah, Zion should have kept it to himself, but yeah, that is what it is. Um, so yeah, I think for me, I'm sticking with ESPN. Chris Canty. I need to know what Joe Burrow has done to Chris Canty that he feels the need to constantly talk down about Joe Burrow.
Didn't Chris
Like the
Canty play
Bengals
for the
season's
Ravens?
over. Hmm?
Didn't Chris Canty play for the Ravens?
I think he did. I think he did towards the end of his career. I think I'd have to look that up. But like, if you didn't know, you would kind of assume that's where this is coming from. Like, he either played for the Ravens or the Steelers, and he just wanted to kick down the Bengals. Even though if you're going to kick down the Bengals, Burrow is not the guy you would do it for. Burrow had a great season. The defense stunk. What do you know? They were basically a 500 football team. So if the Bengals fix that defense, they would be more of a contender. And that's only because Joe Burrow's just that good of a quarterback. Zion doesn't care about basketball. I mean, yes. I mean, until he shows otherwise, I guess you're allowed to say that, Davian. Um, but yeah, like now the new thing is he's basically dismissing the fact that Joe Burrow made a Super Bowl 4 years ago, which I guess that's a long time if you're thinking about sports. But Stephen A. works on that network, has called Aaron Rodgers that bad man. He won his Super Bowl 15 years ago. So nobody
Yep.
switched up on him, and it's been that long. Chris Canty loves defending Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson hasn't made a Super Bowl. So I don't care that Joe Burrow made it 4 years ago. And then Chris Canty doubled down and he was like, he made it 4 years ago and lost to trying to throw shade at Joe Burrow. Once again, Lamar's never been there. Josh Allen's never been there. Trevor Lawrence, everybody loved Trevor Lawrence. He's never been there. Justin Herbert's never been
He
there.
ain't close to one.
Right. So many of these other quarterbacks. I mean, Matt Stafford, everybody loved him. He finally got to one after so many years in Detroit being a doormat. So it's just like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand what Burrow's done that he's now become some. I don't even know. Like the Chris Canty stuff, like somebody at ESPN needs to kind of talk to him because it's a terrible look. Number one. Number two, it's just based
Absolutely.
off of nothing but clearly personal issue you have with him. If that's what it is, then maybe he needs to just
He's a
come out and say
Raven.
what it is.
He's a Raven.
And I get that, but it's like it can't run that deep with you. Like,
It runs deep for all of them. Almost all of them get that purple Kool-Aid taste in their mouths, and then all of a sudden they're salivating for it more, and they just can't put down the
right.
cup. And it clouds their mind, and they speak delusional
Mm-hmm.
BS.
And yes, Chris Canty's last 3 years he's spent in Baltimore. So
See,
yeah, I mean, it's not really much more because I feel like he'll say something else about Burrow and he'll probably end up right back here for me to talk about the next one. MLB. Why is it that the WNBA, which we're led to believe nobody watches, nobody cares about, and all this stuff, how's it that they are better at keeping themselves relevant in their offseason than you are? I don't know how many of you watching or whatever are baseball fans. If you are, tell me the last big name signing that happened in the MLB. It was probably 3 weeks ago when the Dodgers signed yet another big name free agent in the Japanese phenom Sasaki. Since then, it's been crickets. Like a lot of the attention turned to Alex Bregman. He hasn't signed anywhere yet, although I guess he might be close to signing soon. But it's just like baseball does this to themselves every year. They'll come in off of a World Series where people are like, okay, that was a great series or whatever, paying attention. And then it's like they just completely throw water all over whatever fire they might have been building by big name free
Hmm.
agents taking forever to sign with new teams. Last year, it was Scott Boras holding the league hostage with Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery. Those two literally signed like the week of spring training opening up, and they both had kind of subpar seasons. This year, like I said, Bregman's still out there. Um, there's a couple of others, but like Bregman's like the big name now. I feel like if baseball wants to seriously fix their image, they need to create like a signing period or something. Like get these things moving so that now when you're into the point where like pitchers and catchers are reporting, which once again, a lot of baseball fans don't know when that happens. They kind of know when they tune into like Sports Center and they go pitchers and catchers are reporting. They're like, oh, okay, cool. And then it's like baseball fans kind of turn off during spring training because it's like a month long of games that don't matter with a bunch of guys who won't be on the team. And that's where I think baseball kind of loses a lot of people. And then you're like trying to maybe opening day, you build a little bit of excitement, then you kind of turn off for a little bit after that because it's 162 games of them. So
And then once the basketball season ends,
right,
here we
like
go.
that's baseball's like period to shine. The finals are over with. I was gonna say Super Bowl, but that happens before they even really get anything going. But it's like once the finals end, then people kind of tune in. Too bad at that point, football's getting ready to kick right back up again because football
Yep.
stays relevant no matter what day it is. So that's already it.
And fans are more engaged to training camps and OTAs
Yeah,
and all that other stuff. Fans are more engaged to
yeah.
that.
And once NFL's offseason starts, like guys are just moving left and right. So only because I only thought about that because of how the WNBA's offseason's been going. And I was like, they're in the offseason the same time as the MLB, and WNBA is making more news than the MLB is. And that's crazy. I know they probably won't fix it because MLB loves being traditional and keeping things kind of the same, but they got to figure out something because every offseason is like
Hmm.
this, and it's just so annoying. So that's all I had. Like those are the only two things that really kind of caught my attention this week. But yeah, so that's how we do final burn. Um, I mean, look, if there's obviously something that you guys kind of see that you may want one of us to use as a final burn, I did put a link like to our Discord. You can join that. Give us kind of your suggestion in there. If you want to like leave a comment under the video after the fact or whatever, like you can do that. If you follow or subscribe to Integrity Sports Network, you could do it on there as well. Leave us a message, like because like I said, this is just our opportunity to uh, kind of push back or whatever on certain athletes. And look, Damon did bring up somebody, Terry Rozier. That's another thing that I feel like we're probably waiting to see where that goes because now he's kind of wrapped up in the Jonte Porter stuff, which that's all. Like that's all the NBA needs. Remember the NFL when a little period where it's like every couple of months a guy was getting popped for gambling, and then it's kind of seemed like to die down a little bit now. If I'm Adam Silver, I'm like,
Hmm.
please don't let this start happening in the NBA now. It's the last thing I need.
Oh, speaking of the NBA, I forgot. Chris Dan Paul.
Oh yeah,
At what point? At what point are we going to sit here and say he is a dirty player?
I've always said it.
I get it. He
I've
played with an
always said
egg.
it, but he's a LeBron buddy, and yeah. Mm.
I get playing with
Mm-hmm.
an edge, but he be taking it there.
Mm-hmm.
He got Rajon Rondo to fight him.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my life, I thought Rondo was peaceful.
He gives off that vibe. Yeah.
He don't bother
Yeah.
nobody. He don't bother nobody. For you to really, Chris, he got Giannis to snap again. Made Rondo fight him. Dove into Mike Conley's legs, and that started a fight. Um, Repeated low blows. He's teaching Wimby how to flop. Like, bruh,
Mm-hmm.
play right and play clean, or hang it up. I'm
Yeah.
tired. Because Giannis had a point.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you trying to risk my career by doing little stuff like that?
Yeah.
I'm a grown man. You a grown man too. Why are you trying to take away this one thing that puts food on my family
Mm-hmm.
table? Why?
Yeah.
He either need to get it. He needs to play right and play clean, or he need to hang it up at this point. I wouldn't mind if he never got a ring.
Well, I think the crazy part is like you look at Chris Paul. He's not intimidating in any way. Like there's nothing about him that screams, some crazy fighter. Like Pat Beverly.
And
It's
that's
like
why
Pat
he do
Beverly.
his
You look at
crap.
him on the court. He's a little reckless and stuff, but he kind of has that like something's missing with him. Like that's an intense guy.
Hmm.
Chris Paul isn't. Chris Paul's nothing like that. Like Dylan Brooks. Although I feel like Dylan Brooks is kind of morphed back into that now that he's gotten to Houston, where he's kind of just doesn't care about being a bad guy anymore. So yeah, I agree. The Chris Paul stuff is just, eh, it is what it is with him.
He's dirty.
Well, that's when like it started at Wake Forest. He did it a few times at Wake Forest, and it was just like people just brushed it under the rug and started calling him like point god and all this kind of stuff, and like nobody cared. But he's always had this part of him. But all right, I guess I'm glad it reminded you about your last burn there. But yeah, so that's kind of all we got. Um, Obviously, looking at this week, next week we would be talking about Super Bowl stuff. Who do you think will be the first team to make an off-season splash? We could probably tackle that next week. Um, I guess coming weeks though, we will somewhat bring back our team reports, which I guess that could factor into that a little bit about off-season plans. But yeah, I guess we'll think about that one for next week, Anthony. The team we think will make the first off-season splash. I don't hate that one. Um, so we'll have Super Bowl to talk about next week. I guess by next week we'll know Jimmy Butler still a Heat player or not. That will probably make its way onto the show. WNBA, I think at this point we kind of assume something's going to happen by next week for us to talk about. And
Hmm.
yeah, I guess we'll start looking towards the NFL offseason. So make sure you guys give us a like, follow, subscribe to Integrity Sports Network. That way you will know whenever we go live and you can be here front and center. I do want to say shout out to Joshua Johnson, who definitely was new to the show, and Sleepy Mocha. They usually been pretty good about remembering those of you who do message in, so appreciate all of you.
And to our usual, I
Yes, I
appreciate
mean,
you
yeah,
too. I
Anthony,
usually don't say
Damien,
it.
like,
I felt
yeah,
like saying it
we
today.
definitely appreciate you guys being here every week. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, we love you.
Anthony, you got me hot on that one. You got me hot on
Right.
that one. I just don't like people insinuating that I'm playing a race card. I
Yeah.
don't like that.
But yeah, I mean, look, no hate, Anthony. We definitely want to see you back next week. Um, Sleepy Mocha, I'll be back for sure. Appreciate that. Also, tried it over on TikTok as well. So those of you who did tuning on TikTok, appreciate you as well. Hopefully, some of you come back and join the conversation with those over on YouTube and Facebook as well. So definitely, look, we just appreciate all of you. Like one of you or a million of you, we love interacting with you guys. It's the reason why we wanted to do this show. Anthony says he's just doing his job. Okay.
There's a fine line between doing a job and just being a little prick. I'm not with the pricky stuff.
I understand. I understand. So I guess Jory, anything you want to add before we get out of here? I guess let them know what you got going on.
I will have some. I will have an article or two on the blog soon. It's been a rough week, so I had to scrap one of my videos because it's outdated now. So I have to get back to the drawing board. So new episode of George Sports Stories will be coming soon, within the next week, hopefully.
Okay. Yeah.
That's all for me.
Yeah. As for me, look, you guys know I do a couple shows on here, but if you want to see my podcast, it's chomping at the bit. You can find it YouTube, Facebook, um, Twitch, whatever. Audio versions, which I know Jory has audio versions as well, Spotify and places like that. So feel free to check us out over there. Give us a review or something like that. I will. I should have a video up probably early next week, kind of along the lines of Anthony's offseason stuff, talking about the Patriots. I probably do need to do an article, so make sure you go check out our uh, WordPress or Tumblr. I believe both are in the description. You can check out. We do have some articles up already. You can go check those out. And I guess also, if you have suggestions for articles you'd like to see from us, you can leave there as well. But yeah, that's all we got. Appreciate all of you once again. Make sure you do come back next week, Friday, say around 8 o'clock. So that's why you got to hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube so you'll know when we create the event. Same thing on Facebook. It does kind of alert you to that. So uh, make sure you guys come back next week
Hmm.
for another great edition of Passion and Precision. For Jory and myself, we're out of here. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, the rest of your night, and we'll see you next week. All right. Bye.